The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA. You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast.
Listen, I know I said that I didn't think Chris Paul made sense after Bradley Beal, but I think the nostalgia is too much to care about, and I'm also going to be talking about why I've changed my stance on that based on something that Lawrence Frank said, and then looking at the depth of our incredible 11-man rotation that we have assembled now for this upcoming season. We might be the deepest team in the league. But let's start out with the obvious. Chris Paul is a Clipper once more. As someone who became a fan before Chris Paul, and I would say my fondest memories as a Clipper fan are easily Lob City. This is an amazing day. For me as a Clipper fan, for me as the host of this show, because it's been a really crazy journey being a Clipper fan. It's not for the weak. This is going to be my 21st season as a fan. I know people have been a fan longer than me, and listeners of this show have been a fan longer than me. And whenever I meet people like that, I say the same thing every time, that you deserve a ring more than me. But I feel like I shouldn't even start with the basketball stuff, because yes, there's a lot of worries. Are we too small? Are we too old? You know, the fact of the matter is Chris Paul is still a good player in today's NBA. Let's just make that very clear. Chris Paul, yes, he's going into year 21. Yes, he is going to be, already 40 years old. But this past season, and I know this is crazy to think, Clipper Nation, this past season he literally played 82 games. And the only other season that he played 82 games was 10 years ago, that famous 2014-15 season, which I believe was the second best Clipper team of all time after you could argue 2019-20. But I think the second best Clipper team of all time in terms of success was 2014-15, beating that San Antonio team and, of course, blowing that 3-1 lead to the Houston Rockets. Chris Paul played every single game of that season. He played every single game last year. He averaged 9 points, 7 assists on 43, 38, 92 splits. So, yes, his field goal percentage isn't that great, but 38% from three, 92% from the foul line, and played 82 games. You know what Chris Paul's coming in to do. To be a guy that can run the offense with James Harden out, giving us another pick-and-roll god. And I've mentioned several times on this show that we've had the privilege of having 2 of the best pick-and-roll players in NBA history on the Mount Rushmore, in my opinion, of pick-and-rolls on this LA Clippers franchise, in James Harden and Chris Paul. That's part of why they were so successful together, is because when one was out or when one wasn't handling the ball, the other one was. So it's a steady diet of a very stagnant offense, I will say, very ball pound heavy, but that will get you good shots as the end result of your possessions. And that's what you get with Chris Paul. So when James Harden comes out of the game, we now have the perfect replacement to run the offense, because we looked like we were devoid of a solid pick and roll ball handler. Kawhi Leonard running the offense. That it's crazy because I've been, people say I'm a Kawhi hater and I'm very critical of him and stuff like that. First of all, I don't hate him. Secondly, I have been public in saying I have not enjoyed his tenure with the Clippers. I am very public in saying that, largely because of the injuries, though, not because I don't like watching him play basketball. I mean, I think he's an awesome basketball player. I always say that. But yes, I don't think his tenure as a Clipper has been very enjoyable, especially with the expectations. Now, people are going to say that are not fans for a long time, they made it out of the conference, made it out of the second round, and Lob City never did that, but you praised Lob City so much. Yes, because look where we were before Lob City. This stadium that's behind me, if you're watching on YouTube, the Intuit Dome, it wouldn't have been built, in my opinion, without the vision that the Clippers could be a successful product in LA. And that came from 6 consecutive years of winning seasons and playoff appearances. We had never even had 3 consecutive playoff seasons before in all the time we were in LA until Chris Paul came. So he changed everything. He made it so that people were talking about the Clippers as a team that you don't want to face, that you come to town, and if you mess around, you're getting 30-pieced. That's what it was. And that's because of Chris. I love Blake Griffin. And Blake Griffin is maybe the catalyst of it all. But we would have never had this arena, to me, without both of them. And Chris Paul added when we look at who's better all time, Chris Paul or Blake Griffin, it's an obvious answer. Chris Paul was the reason why we became a winning franchise or a winning team. He changed the culture. I think the winning franchise is Ballmer, but winning team, CP3. And he gave the vision of, oh, the Clippers could be a successful team. Like they could be a perennial playoff team. So we know what Chris Paul's here for, to back up James Harden, to not make Kawhi Leonard have to create when James Harden's out. He can still get in his spots. He can still feed off other guys, maybe run occasional pick and rolls. But I was saying that the reason why I brought up the whole do I hate Kawhi thing or whatever is because people say I'm harsh on him. I hold him to a high standard. But I was shocked to see that most Clipper fans were like, we need another ball handler. Beal and Bogey is not good enough, and Chris Dunn off the bench that would not be good enough. And even if we stagger Kawhi, I don't trust Kawhi to create enough good shots. I'm like, damn. So that's how you feel about Kawhi? That he can't create good shots? Like that, and they're like, nah. So maybe this is, exactly what some Clipper fans that aren't as high on Kawhi creating a bunch of good shots are, or maybe they're more hyped on it because of that. But the fact of the matter is, this is why we brought in Chris Paul, is to have another guy that can create shots. Yes, the problem is 11 deep, and I'll be talking about that coming up of why that's, a potential issue, why I was saying I don't want Chris Paul after we got Beal because of the 11 deep thing, but it's going to take major sacrifice. It's going to take major buy-in from the players. It's going to take Ty Lue to have a really good season because we legitimately have 11 good NBA players. 11 players that all deserve to be playing. And look, Kawhi's going to miss games, so then there you go. Beal's going to miss games, and then there you go. So it's not going to be as big of a problem in the regular season. But when everyone's healthy, how can we keep everybody maximizing their roles and also staying content with what's going to happen? So that's going to be major. 11 good players. But let me just start by saying, or end the segment by saying this. For me, the good news, the smile on my face didn't really come from what Chris Paul is going to bring to the basketball court. It's the storyline, the narrative. And I know it's, we want to be anti-narrative and all about basketball these days, but no, like the narrative of professional sports is part of what makes things great. I don't think we'd follow it if it was just great basketball players. We love the narrative, the history, the things that are attached to each player, the legacies. We love that. That's what makes the NBA great. That's what makes it like a storyline. And in this story, Chris Paul spent 6 years with the Hornets, 6 years right here with our Clippers, 2 years with the Houston Rockets, 1 year with the Oklahoma City Thunder, 3 years with the Phoenix Suns, and then 1 year with the Golden State Warriors, and 1 year with the San Antonio Spurs. Of those 7 stops, it will now be the Clippers, which I already felt. When people remember Chris Paul, are they going to say I remember Hornets Chris Paul or Clippers Chris Paul? And you can argue singular season, that 08 Chris Paul was the best version. But when you talk about the fact that Chris Paul had a season in 2010 where he had knee surgery and missed half the season and didn't play in the playoffs because they didn't make it because of that. And in his first 2 years, he was a rookie and a sophomore. You cannot look at me with a straight face and say that Chris Paul had a better tenure with the Hornets than he did with the Clippers. When it's all said and done, it's going to be CP3 of the Lob City Clips that will be remembered more than any version. And now he's got the most total years with our franchise to stamp that. He's one of the greatest point guards of all time. Played for the Clippers for the majority of his career, had his best years with the Clippers, was his most popular self with the Clippers, in the most commercials with the Clippers, had the most All-NBA honors with the Clippers, most All-Star appearances, made it to the playoffs the most, had the most nationally televised games. We did a lot for Chris Paul, and he did a lot for us. So it's only fitting that he comes back for one last dance right here in the stadium that he helped build. Now for a little more personal touch, for those that follow me thoroughly, they know that I've been straddling with the line of I am a fan, but this media stuff and me not being fond of the 2-1-3 era, and then my least favorite player to watch before he was a Clipper, and to be honest, that hasn't changed. Even though he's a great Clipper. I'm going to say that again. He's a great Clipper, James Harden. He's developing a nice little Clipper legacy right here. But I still don't enjoy watching him play basketball philosophically. And by the way, those that say, bro, that's so hypocritical, Chris Paul does a lot of that same stuff. Yes, I agree with you now. When I was younger, I didn't see it like that. When we had Chris Paul. But I see it now. I was just rewatching Game 7 of the Jazz series, the last game Chris Paul played for us. Oh, man, that dude was a ball pounder, slow, the way he ran the offense. So good at making plays, but slow. So we're not going to be the most fun team to watch in the half court, in my opinion, but we have a lot of, unless you love that style of play, but we have a lot of weapons. And all I'm saying is this. Like, as I was saying, everybody knows I've been straddling that line of, it feels more like work now, and I get more enjoyment out of like the platform I've built and talking to you, the listeners, than the actual success of the team. I don't get nervous anymore. It'll make me feel better that day when we win, but I wake up the next day and I don't even care. And then when we lose, it's not a big deal to me anymore. But I miss feeling like a fan, and I miss feeling that nervousness. And maybe that's just part of aging. Maybe that's because the media job has gotten me feeling that way. I know a lot of people in media that have struggled to feel like a fan still. But I'm in the swell. I'm in the wall every single game making noise. But I think it's partially because I wasn't a huge fan of the guys that are the faces of our franchise. But now Chris Paul is back. And, like, I'm not invested in Kawhi's individual legacy or, like, Harden's individual legacy. Like, I couldn't care less. It's all about the Clippers for me. And that's how it was with Chris Paul when he was with the team, too. Like, I didn't care about, he can win a chip so I can say he's better than Isaiah Thomas or John Stockton. Like, I didn't care about that. And I still don't. But it would just be amazing, like a fitting ending for Chris Paul to win a ring with us. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think we're still too old. But did we get better? Yes. And I think it's just such a feel-good story. And I think I'll definitely be able to be... I don't know if I'll get those nerves. I'll update you, all of you. Will I be able to get nervous again? Will I be able to really feel that same feeling I did when I was younger? But I'll tell you what, it definitely makes me like the team more. Sorry, Ivica Zubac, you're no longer my favorite player on the team because Chris is back. The greatest Clipper of all time, either him or Blake Griffin, is back.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Maybe the Cincinnati Bengals do. With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
We continue our summer league analysis. Who improved their minutes in the big leagues? Who did not improve so much their minutes in the big leagues?
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast.
We're still going to be eating at the Summer League plate content-wise for just a little while, baby. We're going back. We're going to talk about who improved their minutes. That will be the first segment. We'll move on to who didn't so much, who maybe lost minutes with the Summer League session, and then we'll go top 100. But there still are there's some things to chew on here with the Summer League meal that we're eating on. What you got, Doug?
Well, let's just pause on that idea that it is July 22nd of the year, and we are still talking about Summer League. We would have moved on, but they won the championship, and there's so much to talk about. They took 6 rookie and sophomore players to summer, and they excelled. That's why we're talking about it. That in itself is the point.
Well, I mean, I want to dive a little more into this and the details tomorrow, so perhaps this content is stolen, but whatever. I'll tease it a little bit more. I did want to dive into just how much better Kon Knueppel's Summer League session was compared to every other Hornets draft pick in the first round over the last 10 years. And like Kon Knueppel had the best Summer League session of any other Hornets first round pick since ... I'm not sure there's a name that comes after that ... I don't think so. It feels pretty certain.
JJ Simpson, so, I guess. I might be KJ.
And he's a second round pick. So I'm first rounders, especially from an 18-year-old, a guy that wasn't one of these older players that was selected in the first round, and they always hit a little harder at first, but then the hit, it wanes. Yeah.
Oh, you did say rookie. You did say rookie. I'm sorry. I thought
I just said first round rookie, right? I said first round rookie. So so of the picks you get excited about, you could go back to LaMelo, except he didn't play because of the COVID season, which that would have been the answer. I think LaMelo just would have been a rock star at Summer League. Yeah. But
Malik Monk, no, didn't play. Yeah,
didn't play. PJ Washington had the injury. I think he would have been good. So it perhaps because of injuries, perhaps because Kon was just flat out good. But anyways, we can dive maybe a little bit more into that tomorrow. Who improved their minutes? I think let's start with Kon. Doug, would you make the case for Kon Knueppel improving his minutes once he gets to the big league roster?
I think you at least have to have the conversation about him starting. I still don't think he will. I think he will begin the year on the bench. I think they'll have depending on Josh Green's health, they'll have a conversation about Josh Green versus Colin Sexton versus whatever other lineup. I don't know that Kon's going to start right off the bat, but just with that performance, with the passing, with the scoring, with all, and I thought some defense that surprised me just a little bit with how effective he was. Now, the question will be, and they'll answer this, I think, in training camp and in preseason, how is that going to translate into him playing actual NBA competition? That's probably going to go more than anything he did in Vegas. That's going to decide whether or not he starts or not. But certainly I think he improved his minutes such that I think he's locked in to a strong bench role and that's the floor at this point.
It's hard to figure out based on how the Hornets have played their rookies in years past and with those different situations, how we should compare this situation with this specific player. So if you just go back to let's go to 2018. Okay, let's start with Miles Bridges just because he's on the team. It made sense in my head. So Miles Bridges comes in, he gets 20 minutes a game. The rookie's in line with that type of run. Miles got 20 a game. Mark Williams got 20 a game when he was healthy. And Tijan Salan, I think a very different style of 20 minutes per contest because of all the injuries they suffered. But Tijan Salan actually played more minutes per contest his rookie year than Miles did. That's something I don't think a lot of people would get right. So you have your 20 minutes per game rookies. Your let them loose right away rookies were PJ Washington, who got 30, LaMelo Ball, who almost got to 30, Brandon Miller, who played over 30. So those are they're starting. They're a significant part of this team immediately. Those are different. That's a different set. And then in the other bucket, you have James Bouknight. You have Kai Jones, coming from the same NBA draft, by the way. Yep. You have in that bucket guys that just didn't play. I mean, Kai Jones never saw the floor.
Just toss that bucket.
Yeah, James
that
Bouknight.
That bucket has a hole in it. That bucket has mildew at the bottom. You just want to go ahead and toss that bucket.
I think Plankton has a restaurant down in the Chum bucket with that one. So James Bouknight and Kai Jones. James Bouknight played a tiny bit, but that's less than 10 minutes. So where does Kon fit? Is he in the Chum bucket? Is he in the 20 minutes per game bucket? Or is he in the 30 minutes per game? Doug, I think 20, that's the easiest place to go, and I think it's the right place. I actually think he might create a new bucket for himself, though. I think he might be – could he get to 25 and just be in the middle of we let everybody else loose because they're clearly one of our better players? We still want to play them, but there's still some room to grow with that 20 minutes per game. And then Kai Jones, James Bouknight, that's not where Kon is. I think he might be in the middle of that group between 20 and 30 minutes per game their rookie year.
I think you're right. I think it's going to come down to matchups. Do they think he can handle the particular matchup that he has that night? And again, I'm going to say on the defensive end, but also offensively, it's just going to depend on what they see his role as. Is it going to be more of a stationary, we make plays for you? Are they going to challenge him a little bit in his rookie year to try to make plays for himself? Because I thought that was one area where he did better at times in Summer League, and then other times, I mean, just going back to that championship game, there was a little ISO play that he had against Devin Carter, and he could not create space for himself, and he got down to the end of the shot clock and just had to hoist something up. And so I think there will be challenges, particularly when he is against smaller, quicker guards on both ends of the floor, him creating space for himself, not turning the ball over, and then defensively being able to stay in front of those players. But if he's playing against a little bit somebody that's a little bigger and a little slower, then I think he could see a little bit more minutes that game. The other thing I would say is in a Hornets universe where they didn't trade for Colin Sexton, I think Kon Knueppel starts. I don't even think it's a conversation over even if Josh Green were healthy. I just think you start the guy. He's a 4th overall pick. You're not a very good team. You start Kon Knueppel. Colin Sexton, to me, does complicate it a little bit, and I think you're going to see a little bit of a battle in training camp and preseason to try to figure this whole thing out.
Well, that's the situation here as to what I was alluding to earlier and how hard it is to try to figure out, because not only do you have Colin Sexton, you bring back Trey Mann, you do have Spencer Dinwiddie. How much that's official, and maybe we use this to parlay into another player. Liam McNeely played 2 games, Doug. Played 2 games. And he was really, really good. And you know what I was wrong about with Liam? I like the pick, fine. But I was wrong about Liam probably being the best candidate for Greensboro this year. Now, look, to make these sweeping statements off of 2 summer league games, maybe that's still the case. Maybe. But I don't think so, man. Not after the way that he played. He's a healthier player this time around. So you could say the larger sample size, the better projection is the sample size that he played at UConn, except we've gone through those issues already. The ankle injury, pneumonia. Now he doesn't have the ankle injury. He doesn't have pneumonia. He has Achilles tendinopathy, apparently, but I don't know if that's just something they're saying to hold him out. I don't know how serious that is. But he looked pretty damn good in those first 2 games. I think you have to increase the minutes load for Liam McNeely based on what we saw.
I would argue that Liam, if you're just talking about how much someone went from minutes 0 to minutes X, I think Liam improved more than Kon Knueppel, because I think Kon was already locked. When you're a 4th overall pick, you're going to get minutes, particularly on a team that won 19 games. Of course, you're going to get minutes, right? Liam, that was not a given, it being a 29th overall selection, even though he's a first-round pick. And so, I think Liam improved his minutes load. Now, again, same thing with Kon, though. He's got to go into training camp and preseason and prove it out and be healthy. But I think Liam McNeely made the case that he's improved his minutes more than anybody, more than KJ, KJ had an amazing summer. But he's got some rotation station issues with players that are in front of him with experience and size. I think KJ probably improved his minutes 2 seasons from now. Like he's planted that seed very firmly that, hey, I'm a player that you want to continue to invest in. But in terms of next season, I would say Liam improved most, and then Kon Knueppel. By the way, what I was wrong about with Liam McNeely, everything.
Real quickly, over/under on minutes per game. This is a fun segment with Josh Lloyd when he does the team previews going into every season. I think for Kon, I would set it at 23 minutes per game, and for Liam, that one's tough. What do you think? What do you think about 13? 13,
I think
okay?
I was thinking
maybe less.
Well, I was thinking max 15, so I think 13 is good. Like I think I could see him as, just that, and I don't think it would be every game. I don't know that Liam but we've got training camp, we've got preseason. If he continues to do it, obviously, then you lock him in. I see a couple of these guys as like, oh, they could be. Yeah, particularly at the beginning of the season when they're experimenting a little bit, you could see some of these guys play one night and maybe not play another night.
And maybe we're dead wrong just because Liam can play some 3, and there's not a logjam at 3. There's a logjam in the backcourt, but there is not one at 3. And unless you just experiment with some 3-guard lineups, which they absolutely should with the amount of guards, and they absolutely will. Liam McNeely can give you some size out there on the perimeter, so maybe I'm wrong on that. That one's hard.
He might steal some minutes from Tijan.
God,
just in terms of like.
Yeah, I mean that one's hard to project, man. That's really difficult.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same game parlay or watching a bet right in the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. If new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
When you do look at the health of this team, and you do look at the leadership of this team, and by the way, when I say leadership, I'm also going to involve the 76ers front office in all of this, not just on the court leadership with a Tyrese Maxey, a Paul George, a Kyle Lowry, whatever it might be, or a Joel Embiid. But when you look at the 76ers, what do you think is their number one problem, and is there anything that would finish a close second?
I think the number one problem is health, but the close second is the team culture. And it keeps rearing its ugly head. The culture was the team culture was exposed in that ESPN article for like the umpteenth time. And I believe that that's the thing that's standing in the way of the 76ers, winning the championship. And it's been that way for a while. I mean, the health issue, Embiid has always been injured. So yes, that's number one. But number two, I would love to talk to, and that's the thing about that article. I felt like the article was very well written, and it was extremely deep. But I would love to hear what James Harden had to say about certain issues. You know, what Sam Hinkie had to say, what Brett Brown, other people, Tobias Harris. I mean, you know, guys who have been there for a long time. So to me, the team culture is holding them back, you know, and I think that's a major problem.
Can Tyrese Maxey be a good enough leader to change that culture? Could VJ Edgecombe be fresh blood in the system to help change that culture? Is that enough to at least get it started in the right direction?
You know what? That's a great question. And I thought about that before we came on air. And you look at Tyrese Maxey and you say Tyrese is a breath of fresh air. But typically, a culture is started by the guy who has to be the man leading the culture, has to be the best player. It's kind of like you're saying, if Michael Jordan showed up late and did things, well, okay, Scotty, we have Scotty, you know, you're a Hall of Fame player too. But no, it has to start at the top. So I think that what Maxey is doing is great. But at the same time, I think that, you know, Joel Embiid has to lead by example. You know, he has to be, and I get it, your knee is messed up, it's everything. But in order for the culture to be great, you have to have Joel Embiid get there early. You have to have Joel Embiid be visible. You have to have Joel Embiid lead by example to the young guys. Because as much as Tyrese does things, and he's the leader, when you have the franchise player doing things that maybe the team doesn't like and disagreeing with the team, you'll have young players and they'll say, maybe I want to be like him. Maybe I want to follow his footsteps. So I think, yes, it's great what Tyrese does, but I think it all has to start with Joel Embiid.
After that meeting, that infamous meeting in Miami, and Tyrese Maxey, it gets leaked that Maxey called out Joel for being late and all that stuff. After that, was there any change with Joel Embiid, or was it just agreeing to make the argument go away? Was there any change in Embiid after that?
I mean, I think Joel did come and he did certain things, but then at the same time, you know, you got to realize guys got injured again. And then all of a sudden, Joel wasn't visible anymore. Now, that's not to say that that's not uncommon, you know, when guys get hurt. But the one thing is, I will say this from a reporter standpoint, you looked around and you saw guys like Kyle Lowry still showing up. You know, Paul George, until he had his procedure, was showing up. But there was a while, you know, where Joel just wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't travel with the team. He didn't do anything like that. So, you know, as far as stuff, yeah, you know, Joel was there, but then there was times when Joel wasn't there, right? You know, so yeah, but again, that's one of those things. That's a cultural issue that was established years ago, and it comes a point in time where that cycle becomes hard to break. It's kind of the equivalent of, you know, both of us are parents, you know, and it's the equivalent of, you know, allowing our kids to jump on the couch, say F you, mom, middle finger to dad. But then all of a sudden, when our parents come, their grandparents come in the house, you smack them and tell them you can't do this anymore. And they're going to look at you like, what do you mean? We've been doing this for the last 5 years. So to me, you know, it's one of those things, once you let it out, it's kind of like, you know, once you open that Pandora's box, the saying, you know, you can't close it. You can't let it back in. So that's the problem.
Joel Embiid, no more Nutella for you until you learn how to talk to your mother with respect. All right. Well, at least that works in my house. Here's something I was thinking about when you mentioned culture and we talk about leadership as well. The thing that's so interesting about Joel Embiid is, like, I remember his first year playing. Ben Simmons is not playing. Ben Simmons is hurt. And I think that was maybe his second year in the league, whatever it was when Ben was out that year, his first year as a professional, not technically his rookie season. There were the pictures on social media of Joel Embiid taking Ben Simmons out. And when he was asked about taking Ben Simmons out, he goes, hey, I know what it's like to sit on the sidelines and watch everybody else play. That sucks. You feel like you're not a part of it. So I wanted Ben to feel like he's a part of it. And now with Tyrese Maxey over the last couple of seasons, you really hear his encouragement of Tyrese Maxey.